So I want to talk about something that's embarrassing, or at least it is for me, and that's underarm sweating. So I'm 42 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have suffered through underarm sweating, excessive sweating, and it's not just when I'm out running or doing yard work or something, it's all the time. I can be sitting in the car with the AC blasting on a little road trip, and I'll have sweat rings all in my armpits. I could be sitting on my desk at work and sweating. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not stress related, although sometimes it is, but it's just my underarm sweat, and it's embarrassing. It was embarrassing as a teenager in high school. It's embarrassing as an adult. So I've tried a few different things in the past. I've gone through pretty much every deodorant I can think of, with every variation of aluminum trichloride or whatever, and nothing ever really worked for me. I've tried some of those sweat pads that have extremely high aluminum content, and those were terrible for me. I had extreme irritation. I'm not going to name the name, but there was a product I used one time where you put this pad on at night before you go to bed, and like I said, it has this like super high aluminum content, and it was the most excruciating pain I have had in a long time. I mean, the stinging, the irritation was immense. I was up for like 3 hours that night, couldn't sleep. I tried washing it off, nothing worked. So that went out the window. And I started looking at other options, like some people have said Botox works. Well, I think with Botox, you have to get retreated every 6 months maybe, which I didn't want to get into that kind of circle where every 6 months I'm shelling out more money. And I came across Dermadry, and I thought, you know what? Let's give it a try. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what you get with the product, how to use it, and then the success that I've had with it. So you get this fancy case, and inside of it there's an instruction book, which is very thorough. Talks about kind of safety precautions and warnings and potential side effects, who might not be a good candidate for it, such as if you have a cardiac pacemaker or if you're pregnant. So there's a lot of stuff in here, but I will say quickly, don't get discouraged or scared by the warnings and the cautions. Definitely read them, pay attention to them, but I haven't had any issues with this, so hopefully you'll be good as well. You also get the console, which is essentially the brains of the operation. You get a couple of electrodes, I guess, wires, I don't know what you would call them, that plug into the back of the machine on one end, and the other plugs into these aluminum blocks, these medical grade aluminum blocks, which then fit into these little sleeves. And the sleeves have to be thoroughly wet, I think is the terminology they use. And just word to the wise, first time I used this, I was very worried about these things becoming dry, because it says you don't want them to become dry when you're using it. So I ran these things underwater, didn't wring them out, just full on wet. And as soon as I put them under my arms and basically closed them down, water just poured down. So what I do is just run these under the sink for a few seconds, make sure they're good and wet, and then just give them a light squeeze to get the excess out, enough to where it's not going to pour down the side of your body, but it's still enough to where these things don't dry. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You plug these blocks into the electrode into here, and then when you turn the machine on, you have these little up and down arrows that let you select the strength, the voltage for your treatment, and you can go as low as 1 all the way up to 8 volts. And they recommend starting on the low side. So first time out, I used 1, didn't have any effects whatsoever. Second time, bumped it up to 4. Again, didn't really see or feel any effects. So third time, I bumped it all the way up to 8. And when I was done, there was some redness under my arms, but there was no irritation. It wasn't uncomfortable. I mean, you couldn't feel it at all, or I couldn't feel it at all, but it was visible. And when I'm using the product, I would say there is some sensation. It's maybe a light stinging irritation, but it's so light that it's almost like it's in your head. So I kept or I kept with the 8-volt approach, and it's worked well for me. Again, when you're done, there's really no kind of irritation or bad feelings. So let's talk about the treatment. Now there are 3 levels that they talk about here. Level 1 is mild hyperhidrosis. Level 2, level 3 is severe, and severe is sweat drips. Sweat spots measure over 8 inches in diameter. Sadly, that's me. So with that, they recommend 3 to 5 treatments per week for 4 to 6 weeks as kind of your initial introduction. And I'm on week 6. And then after you've gone through that initial phase, you can go into a maintenance. And for level 3, it does say up to 3 treatments per week. So I'm curious to see if I'll be able to scale down to twice a week or once a week. Doesn't really matter. I'm okay either way. The entire process only takes 15 minutes. And you can multitask. You can put a show on, watch part of a movie, play on Facebook. I don't know. It's easy to kill 15 minutes while these things are doing their work. The only thing you have to be sure of is that you don't lose connection, so you have to keep your arms down for that entire time. So let's talk about how it has worked for me. Week 1 didn't really see any side effect, but again, I was kind of working through the voltage settings, so 1 and 4 probably didn't do much for me. I would say after the 3rd week is when I kind of realized all of a sudden, hey, you know what? I'm not sweating as much. I mean, there's still a little bit, but it wasn't anywhere near where I used to be. I mean, it's a pretty embarrassing situation when you're sitting at your desk in an air-conditioned house and you've just got sweat rings. I mean, I'm not doing anything. Why am I sweating? So after about the 3rd week, I started noticing something, and I would say after the 5th week, I wouldn't say I was cured, but I mean, I don't sweat anymore. Now, if I'm out for a run or if I'm out working in the yard, if I'm just generally hot, yeah, I'm going to sweat, and I'm okay with that. That's natural. What I don't want is to be sitting in my car on the way to work sweating, or at my desk or watching TV. I mean, those are situations where I shouldn't have underarm sweat. Once I've kind of found a level of treatment from the maintenance that works for me, maybe I'll update the video, or if nothing else, I can at least add something in the description to kind of update you on how things are going for me. If you do decide to give Dermadry treatment, which if you're like me and you suffer from underarm sweating, I highly recommend it. So if you do and you have questions, feel free to send me a comment. I'm by no means an expert, but as someone that's used it for 6 weeks, at least might be able to answer some of your questions. And Dermadry advertises on their site, I think 95 or maybe 99% success rate, which I'll be honest, I wasn't quick to believe, but 6 weeks in, I'm a believer. So again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you found this useful. And if you decide to give Dermadry a try, then good luck to you. Thanks.